Welcome to this edition of the Astrological Weather Report. My name is Daniel Fiverson. I am an evolutionary astrologer trained and certified by the Jeffrey Wolfgreen School of Evolutionary Astrology. I am an astrological intuitive and have studied and worked with astrology, tarot, and I Ching since the 1960s. You can read my forecasts, articles, and about my work on my website, evolutionaryastrologer.net. In this astrological weather report, I will focus on the personal astrological weather present in the house where Pluto is in the natal chart. This is the second of two sessions. In this session, I will examine Pluto's placement through the houses from the 7th house to the 12th house. The first talk in this series details the archetype of Pluto. In order to understand how Pluto works in your chart, you must first understand the Pluto paradigm in its entirety. If you missed it, I encourage you to listen to the Pluto paradigm talk. For today, I will summarize it. We know the whats of our lives, but do we know the whys? We might understand how the sun and moon in our natal charts express our personalities and how the ascendant describes how we meet the world. But do we know why the circumstances of our lives have unfolded the way that they have? And do we know why the people who helped or hurt us came into our lives when they did? Pluto in your chart holds the answer to these questions. Pluto correlates directly to the soul and the natural law of evolution. The soul is an immutable consciousness with a finite identity that persists from lifetime to lifetime. The soul, the higher self, your guardian angel, is the source of who and what we are. It is the part of us that exists outside of time and space. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Each lifetime is the experience of our soul having that human experience. The soul manifests a human personality with subjective consciousness and unconsciousness lifetime after lifetime. It has been suggested that time is not linear. Instead, consider that it is simultaneous. Someone once asked God, "Why did you create time?" He or she answered, "So that everything would not happen all at once." Pluto is the base note of our natal chart. Pluto is the entry point to solve the astrological puzzle of the natal chart, not the sun, moon, or ascendant. Understanding the individual's life context must also be gathered to unravel the chart's archetypal patterns. Every chart has three axes. The position of the planets represent time. The houses represent geographical space. The third axis is the consciousness of the individual whose chart is being read, which reveals their evolutionary state and conditions and determines how the archetypes are expressed. Each archetype has a full spectrum of expression, from distortion to enlightenment. According to the Jeffrey Wolfgreen School method of evolutionary astrology, there are three primary evolutionary states, consensus, individuating, and spiritualizing. The evolution of consciousness is like a musical keyboard. We have both hands on the keys, playing lower, middle, and perhaps higher notes. Understanding the querent's place along this evolutionary spectrum is imperative to understanding the chart. We are all on the same path, but at different mile markers. To determine the mile marker of the querent, they must first be questioned non-invasively at their comfort level about personal history and current life experiences. Once these details are understood, the nature of each planetary archetype will be revealed, and a holistic image of the chart will emerge. You can systematically gather the chart's particulars, following the trail that begins with Pluto and the lunar nodes. It is as much an intuitive process that builds in what you have learned from books, lectures, and reading charts. Pluto encapsulates what has come before, our karmic history through our emotional memory. We do not remember our past lives intellectually. From lifetime to lifetime, we pick up where we left off. The emotional experiences of the first 7 years of our lives, leading up to our first Saturn square, are the reminders of where we left off in our evolutionary path. The soul has desires just like we do. Pluto correlates to the desires of the soul that have led to the current lifetime and the desires that set its evolutionary needs in motion. Pluto is the evolutionary engine that is constantly moving us forward. Evolutionary intention propels us forward even when it feels like we are standing still or moving backward. Pluto correlates to power. It was discovered in 1930 when physics first began understanding the atom's power and atomic energy. Its initial application was the production of bombs. That pursuit changed the balance of power in the world. Later, science found a way to harness the atom for peaceful applications. When analyzing Pluto in a natal chart, we learn how the personality expresses that power. Power is expressed in 3 ways: standing in our power, giving our power away, or having someone else take our power. Pluto is not just another planet in the chart. It is the base node of the chart. It correlates to our karma, the unfinished work that we have brought into this lifetime from the past. The house placement of Pluto sets the nature of the soul's desires for this lifetime. I work with a house system based on the 12-letter astrological alphabet. The first house is imprinted with the Aries Mars archetype. The second house is Taurus Venus. The third house is Mercury Gemini, and so on. Someone with Pluto in the first house is an Aries soul. With Pluto in the 10th house, they are a Capricorn soul. Pluto in the 12th house is a Pisces soul. Regardless of which house Pluto occupies, all of the following evolutionary conditions will be true. The outer planets will shape and format the conscious and unconscious parts of the self according to generational influences. The planetary conditions of the Sun, Moon, and personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, will format the nature of the personality. The house placement of the planet that rules the house Pluto is in, any planet in the sign Pluto rules, and the house Pluto rules will add intensity and dimension. For instance, for Pluto in the first house, this would correspond to the house Mars is in and the house with Aries on the cusp. Other planets in the house with Pluto will also add expression, and the lunar nodes will add karmic intensity if they are resident with Pluto's house or by aspect. Each house in the chart alternates in polarity and succession between yang, male or day energy, energy moving outward from the center, and yin, female or night energy, moving inward, backward, energy moving inward, back towards the center. So let's look at Pluto's expression through the houses. Pluto in the 7th house, or Libra, demonstrates that a new evolutionary cycle is underway. As we move into the sign of Libra, we move above the horizon line into the upper hemisphere of the natural zodiac. This is the realm of society and interaction with others. Pluto is a cardinal sign and denotes that a new cycle is unfolding. Libra is cardinal, air, yang, energy moving outward from the center, that expression of Venus, the goddess of relationships. In Libra, Venus is concerned with our one-on-one relationship with others. Western astrology sometimes refers to the seventh house and Libra as the marriage house. It is not yet marriage. The seventh house is the dating game. Scorpio is the marriage house because marriage involves sex. In Libra and the seventh house, we initiate many different kinds of relationships with a variety of different people to learn about ourselves. The glyph for Venus resembles a hand mirror. In the other, we see a reflection of ourselves. Librans need to be in a relationship to feel fulfilled and complete. They do not like being alone. The symbol of the scales representing the sign of Libra implies that we need to learn to be in balance with others. Often, relationships begin with some codependency. One or both partners have the expectation that the other will satisfy some essential need, and the relationship becomes dependent on this conditional love. In other words, I love you if. Excuse me. The cardinal quality of Libra will generate karmic necessities that occur as ruptures in the relationship. Over time, the lesson learned is to accept the individual idiosyncrasies of others and ourselves and recognize that we are all perfectly imperfect. We're all working along the same common pathway of clearing emotional and mental distortions to achieve spiritual balance. Libra is associated with the process of listening. In Libra, we learn to listen to others and to become aware of the needs of others. Libra souls will learn to be in a relationship in a non-dependent way and encourage independence in their mate. Libra souls want to develop an objective awareness of themselves and understand their sense of individuality in the social context. Those people born with this placement often exhibit the compulsive need to be in relationship or to relate with others to feel complete, to feel complete, and the need to be needed by others. They have been learning to listen to another's reality as it exists. They have been learning how to participate in a relationship as an equal. With the Pluto polarity point in the first house, the impetus is to learn not to depend on others. They will learn to recognize their individuality and appreciate humanity's diversity. Pluto in the eighth house is the realm of Pluto and the yin, water element sign of Scorpio. In the eighth house, relationships become mutual commitments. This is the house of marriage and of sharing resources. People born with Pluto in the eighth house are Scorpio souls. In the eighth house, we face who we are and who we are not. We merge with sources of power to move beyond our limitations. In the eighth house, we connect with what is powerful to find the inner strength to become who we want to be and accomplish what we intend. Karmic necessities compel us to delve into our underworld, our subconscious, to recover the parts we have abandoned and buried there. We can go through cycles of emotional death and rebirth, growing our self-awareness and becoming more conscious, which moves us along our evolutionary trajectory. One of the dynamics of the eighth house is spiritual bypass. This is the attempt to jump from the fourth house of self-recognition directly to the 12th house of higher consciousness, skipping over the process of reclaiming and reintegrating the abandoned parts of the psyche hidden away in the eighth house. We cannot skip over the parts of ourselves that make us uncomfortable. In order to realize unconditional love for ourselves and others, like water, we must fill up every space we pass through. We each have a specific personality or nature that is unique. Our personality is a composite of many dynamics: intellectual, emotional, physical, and spiritual. The interaction of these dynamics determines our nature. Each individual experiences life in reality in their own unique way because of the specific orientation of their personality. Individuals with Pluto in the 8th house desire to transform their limitations by forming relationships with and merging with what they need outside of themselves to evolve beyond their limitations. Those born with this placement often exhibit an intensity on all levels, being very fixed and stubborn. They dislike superficial relationships. They can be vindictive when taken advantage of by others. They express strong likes and dislikes. They move through cycles of animation and withdrawal. They can be secretive. They move past challenges and transform those with whom they're involved, for better or for worse. Pluto's polarity point in the 2nd house teaches us and them to become self-reliant, to utilize the personal power we develop as a foundation to go forward through life, not being codependent on others for security or well-being. Pluto in the 9th house embodies the archetype of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. Sagittarius is the yang, mutable expression of the fire triad, which correlates to the third and final delineation of the self-actualization process. Sagittarius and Jupiter correlate to the right brain and non-linear processes such as intuition. In the 9th house, we develop our belief system and our perception of reality. In Sagittarius, we strive to connect with that which is greater than ourselves. This correlates to religion, spirituality, philosophy, and higher knowledge. Sagittarius is experiential. There is a restlessness that seeks constant life adventures that expand the awareness of understanding their outer world. This, in turn, illuminates and expands their inner world. Sagittarius souls tend to make broad statements about the nature of reality and to proselytize those personal beliefs. The tendency is often to see only a portion of the truth. People with Pluto in the 9th house have the evolutionary need to understand life and themselves in a metaphysical, philosophical, or religious context. This archetype needs to explain its connection to the world around us. The 8th house hinted at this connection. In the 9th house, the connection is known. Like the other Aries and Leo fire souls, these people feel they have a special destiny. This is linked to a relationship to the metaphysical, philosophical, and religious principles that explain their connection to the universe and the world. Sagittarius souls often feel like a stranger in a strange land. They are often alienated from the culture they were born into. They can be extremely intuitive. They are conceptual thinkers. They can be very fixed in their beliefs. They often need to convert others to their point of view. They value honesty. They are not natural loners. They have the ability to laugh at themselves and can make others laugh at themselves as well. And they are natural storytellers. With the Pluto polarity point in the 3rd house, the intention in this life is that these people learn that their version of reality is relative and that the paths to truth are many. Confrontations with others will occur. Their security is linked to their beliefs. They can be quite resistant to other points of view. They can be argumentative as they attempt to convert others to their viewpoint by exposing the weaknesses in other persons' perspectives. Yet they are destined to draw to them people who are as powerful or more powerful, who will point out the weakness in their perspectives. The evolutionary intention is that the confrontations and challenges to these beliefs will challenge their sense of security, and consider a broader range of understanding. and to recognize that their beliefs are personal, not universal beliefs. Pluto in the 10th house. The 10th house belongs to the yin, cardinal earth expression of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Capricorn correlates to the process of maturation and responsibility. The 10th house correlates to our consensus agreements necessary to live in society. It is the desire for social status. Capricorn can be repression, suppression, and depression. Society tends to repress or suppress behavior and beliefs that do not resonate with consensus reality. Depression generates reflection that causes us to become aware of what is within us that needs to change. The 10th house correlates to the consensus state of evolution. Man-made law dominates society, requiring adherence to strict laws that must be adhered to. It encourages the importance of social status and power. Many born with Pluto in the 10th house have desired social power or status positions. They have held these positions in past lives. These people have learned how the social system works and have learned to manipulate it to their advantage to realize their ambitions of getting to the top. They need to be in control rather than allowing society to control them. Those born with Pluto in the 10th house often draw to themselves parents who are stern and who impose rigid rights and wrongs on their children, or a parent that won't take on the responsibilities of parenting. Often they have been very judgmental in past lives. With the Pluto polarity point in the 4th house, those born with Pluto in the 10th house must learn emotional self-reliance. Through karmic necessity, they are shocked by parents, children, or spouses, such as the death of a parent or judgmental parents. The shocks create self-examination. They begin to understand the nature of their emotions. Problems experienced by their children can also force self-examination. They can neglect their children to pursue their career. A sense of guilt causes them to form a new self-image that is not dependent on a career or anything external. They begin to understand that they will be okay despite losing everything. As they develop these attitudes, they can achieve their desired social recognition. They learn to balance work and family time. They learn to fulfill their ambitions in a non-manipulative ways and to encourage others to do the same. The 10th house represents a condition where an entire chapter or cycle of evolutionary development has ended and another has just recently begun. This is the evolutionary lesson of how to establish their individuality and authority within the framework of society. These individuals have decided to learn to integrate their philosophy and identity within their culture according to the established laws, regulations, and customs. Those born with this placement are often exhibit cycles of emotional withdrawal. They need social recognition and power. They are good organizers and natural leaders with a deep understanding of how the system works. Pluto in the 11th house belongs to the yang, fixed air Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. This archetype correlates to liberation from parental, familial, ancestral, gender, societal, and past life conditioning. Uranus correlates to the subconscious and the individuated unconscious, what has been repressed and abandoned. It is the substrate, the underlying layer of our consciousness. Aquarius follows Capricorn in the natural zodiac. Capricorn creates form and structure. It solidifies and crystallizes. The winds of change anchored in Aquarius shatter the crystallization so that something new can take its place. Aquarius can be both Promethean and Epimethean, progressive and regressive. Aquarians want things to change. Some Aquarians want things to change by returning to how things used to be. Discovered at the time of the American and French revolutions and the drafting of the U.S. Constitution, Aquarius correlates to rebellion and dramatic change. Aquarius souls reject anything that tries to define them or tell them who to be and how to act. They have been pulling away from the consensus reality. They have gained objectivity by learning to view themselves outside of societal norms. They often feel disconnected from identification with a nation or culture. They are quite innovative. The consensus can perceive their innovation as threatening and may feel rejected or threatened. Society considers the proposed innovations too radical. In extreme cases, they may drop out of society altogether. They can become antisocial. Some will even work to bring down the system they feel alienated from. In the fixed mental sign of Aquarius, these people tend to be quite rigid in their thinking, which may cause confrontational encounters with people closer to the consensus perspective. This compulsive plutonium influence can cause the detachment to these ideas to be quite strong. If they resist too much, society eventually will isolate the individual. The isolation will force the person to examine what they are doing that has brought on the isolation, which leads to objective awareness. This archetype allows us to understand what is unique about ourselves. We are individuating. We are experiencing our uniqueness by bonding with like-minded souls. This is how subgroups are formed within society. Change occurs when enough like-minded people bond together to force change within outmoded structures of society. All Aquarian souls are born with a deep sense of being different. They need to link their individual purpose to a group or socialized purpose. These people can be natural leaders. Many instinctively understand group dynamics. Because they are innovative, they can be visionaries, working towards social progress. 11th house souls are learning how to break free from crystallized and outmoded forms of self-identification. Aquarius souls exhibit behavior ranging from being extremely antisocial to defending tradition. They have an inherent feeling of being different. They are innovative, unique, creative, and often a loyal friend. They cycle through periods of detachment. Their focus is on themselves. They often exhibit sudden and erratic behavior. They are aloof, iconoclasts, highly individuated, and often hard to know. With the Pluto polarity point in the 5th house, they intend to learn to take charge of their destinies. In this life, they are learning to put their ideas into action. Those rejected by the consensus society must learn to develop their purpose and to link it to a socially valuable need. They must learn that they are different and that is okay. Through learning to self-actualize, they can become effective leaders. They can be instruments of change. They must learn to change that which needs to be changed impersonally. These people can all experience shocks through friendships. Having the rug pulled out from under them enforces the need to take charge of their lives. Generally, these people will only have a few friends at any time. Common qualities they will share include behavior that can vary from antisocial to following the crowd to defending tradition, feeling of being different, innovative, creative, good friend, iconoclast, and hard to know. Pluto in the 12th house. The 12th house is the yin, the mutable water sign of Pisces, ruled by Neptune. Pisces represents consciousness itself. Consciousness is like water. It has no form. It takes the form of whatever form it is contained within. Water fills up whatever space it passes through. Divinity permeates all of consciousness. All states of consciousness have the impulse to experience transcendent reality. This is the impulse that stimulates the principle of evolution. Pisces ignites the desires to return to the source of all that is. Scorpio requires proof. Pisces is blind faith. The location of Pisces and Neptune in the birth chart indicates the natural way for the person to spiritualize their life. These, plus planets in the 12th house and the aspects they make, are likely sources of the types of disillusionment they will experience. The collective unconscious is the content of consciousness that pertains to the entire human species. It resides within each human body. The collective conscious is the total of all thoughts and vibrations existing at any moment on the conscious level. We tune into these through Neptune and osmose with them into ourselves through Scorpio. The impact of totality alters our perceptions and personal realities. 12th house Pluto people have the evolutionary intent to align themselves with a metaphysical belief system to realize the unity of all of creation and to realize their individuality as an extension of the source of creation. Pisces and the 12th house are the composite of all other houses, signs, and planets. It represents the totality of life and reality in this and all other planes of existence. It is also the archetype in which the source of all is sensed and must be consciously developed and realized by the individual. These people have an emphasized desire to dissolve all the barriers that prevent merging their power into the cosmic whole. The culmination of the 12th house experience results in a merging of the ego with source. These people come into life with a sense of standing on a precipice. Behind them is the known world, including the past. In front of them is the darkness of infinity. Standing on the precipice, they must decide what to do: go forward, go backward, or remain on the precipice, paralyzed from moving. Within this person, the essence of identifying with self as ego is being dissolved. Many will experience metamorphosis, where a new realization emerges from the soul. This appears to occur by itself. This process teaches them that they are a connected part of the whole. These people are born with a deep sense of right and wrong, reflected in a sense of idealized conduct. These people judge themselves and others in relation to this idealized sense. They judge negatively when human behavior does not live up to the ideal. Many have drawn lifetimes of persecution upon themselves to atone for what they feel they have not done correctly. Some are born with a sense of victimization or martyrdom. Some will avoid reality through drugs, alcohol, or other avoiding activities. 12th house Pluto people need to learn what judgment means and how to exercise their proper judgment. The lesson is that ultimately judgment is based on intention, not outcome. They must look to learn at their own and others' intentions and judge accordingly. Many psychics, channels, and mediums have displacement. They have allowed the old egocentric limitations to be dissolved. They are reborn as channels through which the source operates. They do what they are asked or intend to do. Pisces souls have had the prior evolutionary intent or desire to align themselves with some transcendental belief system to realize the unity of all creation. They strive to see or experience their individuality as an extension of the source of creation. In doing so, they can spiritualize all the aspects of their lives. The composite of all of the signs and houses emphasizes the direct desire to dissolve all barriers presenting the merging of their power with the cosmic whole. They can have powerful dreams. They take things to heart. They often harbor deep and unresolved fears. They are intensely private and sensitive, and Pisces souls are naturally psychic. With the Pluto polarity point in the sixth house, these Pisces souls must develop specific techniques to learn to analyze themselves. Through this process of self-examination, they will learn how and why they are the way they are and how and why they work the way they do. Because they need to connect to a transcendental belief system, they must develop their natural meditative state through specific techniques to bring a sharper focus to their living connection to Source. They must commit themselves to a form of work that is practical and useful to others. They must be involved in human service. They cannot be isolated in self-centered pursuits. This relates to the Eastern concept of karma yoga, serving God through right work. In addition to benefiting others, the work itself becomes a path towards self-realization. The attitude, the effort is what matters far more than the scale of the actual work. Work is necessary because it grounds the undefined energies of the 12th house, Pluto. The work causes a focus on self and serves as a mirror where they can experience their inner states. They are also learning to see reality as it is rather than in an elusive, deceptive way. They typically must experience cycles of deep crisis. This crisis forces them to deal with what is. Many have an unconscious compulsion to create a crisis. They are often unaware of this pattern and cannot understand why the crises keep occurring. The intent is to learn humility. Portions of this material have been paraphrased from Jeffrey Wolf Green, Pluto, Jeffrey Wolf Green's work, Pluto, The Evolutionary Journey of the Soul, Volume 1, and the JWG School of Evolutionary Astrology courseware. I thank you for listening. Please tune in again for my next rant. I hope you enjoyed this. Namaste.